There are many ways to make money from property. One of the ways where you can make large amounts of money within a few months is flipping property. In this video, I break down how it works. If you're watching my videos for the first time, my name is Saj Hussain, and on this channel I share with you my 15 years of property investing experience to ultimately help you get further faster in your own property investing journey. When it comes to flipping property, ultimately it's about buying property with a view to selling it and not holding it onto it for any substantial period of time, which is the opposite for what we would do, for example, on a letting property, where we would purchase that property, maybe add some value to it to improve it, but then rent it out for a rental income. You make a modest income at the end of each month. However, when we sell a property, we take all that profit in one go. Flipping property can be a great strategy, but it doesn't work in all markets all the time. There's a couple of factors that we need to get right. One is there enough people that are going to buy the type of property that we want to create? Ultimately, we only need one buyer, but is there sufficient demand for the type of product that we're creating, and the home, is it going to be desirable for that particular sector of the market? The other thing we've got to look at, is there enough property that we can actually purchase in the first place to add the value to create the end product that we're looking to do? When implementing this strategy, I think it's really important that you start with the end in mind, so you know exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve before you actually start. Some people will purchase a property first and then decide what they're going to do with it, i.e. what type of strategy they're going to implement, whether they're going to sell it, convert it to a HMO, run it as service accommodation, maybe flip it on. I think it's really important to start with the strategy first, so you know what you're going to do, and then you go looking for the right type of property. But it may be that you've already got a property right now and you're thinking, maybe I want to flip it on for a profit. It may still be possible, but you've got to get the fundamentals right. So what are these fundamentals? If what we're trying to achieve is a profit using this strategy, then if we work backwards and say, well, this is the profit that we want from this particular property, we need to work out how much is it that we're going to spend on the property, how much is it that we're paying for the property, and is that actually going to work? So when we're purchasing the property, we need to make sure we're not overpaying for what it is. We need to ensure that there's enough value that can be added to that property, but that value still needs to ensure there's a sufficient profit margin left at the end of it. If those three things aren't correct or don't work, then ultimately you're not going to make any money out of the deal, or you may make a small amount of money, a huge amount of pain, but really not be worth its while. When looking for this type of potential project to be able to use as a flip, some people will go and look for what they call fixer-uppers, where they're looking for a property that's a little bit tired, a little bit dated, so they can go and improve it and make it much nicer. Yes, in theory that works, but actually it's still about making a profit, right? Because that's why we're doing this. So it's not just the fact that it needs improving, it's a case of whether you can improve it and still make a sufficient profit at the end of the day. Because if you purchase a property for £100,000, you spend £20,000, make it much nicer, and then you sell it for £120,000, hey, you made a nice house, but you've not made any money. So what is it that we're actually looking for in a potential project? Yes, as we said, we want to be able to find something we can improve and add value to, but also we're looking for, when we sell this property, is it going to be in an area that's desirable, that people want to move into? Is it somewhere where there's demand for that type of property? Now, it may be you're already familiar with the area and you know this is the kind of place that people aspire to want to move into, rather than an area people are desperately trying to get out of. Or it may be you're not that knowledgeable about the area and you speak to estate agents about what the area is like, what sort of properties sell in the area, and also there's a lot of research you can do online in terms of number of properties that are sold in that particular area, how many of them are up for sale right now, what percentage of those are potentially going through a sale. And if you look at that kind of data, it'll give you a good sense that is it somewhere where the property market is moving, is active, people are buying those kind of properties. Now, my preference is a flat market. The reason I like a flat market, because it's much more predictable, because you buy something for a certain price a day, you know how much you're going to spend in terms of improvement, and you know what that figure will going to be at the end in terms of value. When the market's rising or falling, or there's other ups and downs going on in that market, then it's much more unpredictable of what the figures are going to be like at the end, because it may be it's moved, it's improved, it could have been higher, which is great, or it could be it's gone the other way, which is not so great for you, because it may be you achieve less than what you anticipated because the market is not really going in your favor. A great way to get a head start in this strategy when you're looking for a project is to buy a property with BMV. What we mean by BMV is below market value. It's not always possible to get a huge amount of discount off a property in terms of its value, depending on the market and the location that you're in. But if you can get a little bit of a discount, let's say the property is worth £100,000 and you're able to purchase it for £90,000, that means effectively you bag £10,000 of potential profit straight away on that property, which is really going to help you when you start doing the next stage, which is the add value. When we're looking to add value to a property, it's really important we don't get carried away. It's very easy to do that by looking at there's so many things we can do to this house to make it much nicer, much more desirable than it already is. But remember, ultimately it's about making a profit. But you still want to create a nice home, something that's desirable for somebody. So it's not about cutting every corner that you can when trying to do a project like that. It's about adding value that's going to be valuable to somebody, but also profitable for you as well. So for example, if you're putting a swimming pool in the garden in a small 2-bedroom terrace house, that's really not going to add value. It's going to cost you a significant amount of money. If anything, it might depreciate the value of the property because there'd be fewer people that'd be interested in purchasing a property like that. So when we're looking to add value, it's got to be things that are going to make the property much more attractive, much more nicer, and profitable for you too. And the most common ones are things like kitchens and bathrooms and the basic decor. If you get a simple decor right, which it might be just you whitewashing the property, maybe some simple grey tones in there as well, and you fitted a new kitchen and new bathroom, and generally the property's in good working order, you're servicing like the electrics, the boiler and things like this, then generally that's a good basic starting point. Now there might be other things you might be able to add on to that. For example, if you put an ensuite in the master bedroom, that might make it more desirable, that might make it more increase the demand for the number of people that want that kind of property, but you may not necessarily make more profit. So the calculation of what work you're doing on the property and the value add you're doing is really important that you get that right. When we're looking at a potential project, there's 3 factors that we're looking at in terms of how we're going to be able to add value to that property. One is we extend the property in terms of its volume and make it bigger than it already is, which is the one that most people tend to think about. You put an extension at the back, you might have a loft conversion with a dormer, you may use a basement, essentially increasing the volume of the property, making it bigger than it already is, and that may push up the value of the property. The second thing that we look at is it going to be possible to reconfigure the layout that's already there to make it better and work better than it already is. So for example, it might be it's got 2 lounges and a small kitchen, and you open all that up to make it a larger open plan kitchen, dining, living space. It may be that you've got a house that's say got 2 bedrooms and a bathroom that's upstairs. You move that bathroom to maybe on a ground floor or somewhere else in the house, in an attic space for example, and end up with 3 bedrooms. So you reconfigure the space that's already there to make it work better. And the third way that we sometimes look at these projects and think how is it we're going to be able to add value is we change its use. And for instance, one of the most common ways is you may be repurposing office space into residential use. The one that we like to use is we take a standard family house and we convert that into a larger HMO, and by changing its use, this is another way to increase the value of the property. So they're the 3 core ways that we will look at in terms of how we're going to be able to add value and improve the value of that particular property and raise the overall price at the end of the day. The final process in flipping a property is being able to exit it, sell it on and take that profit and move on to your next project. But when it comes to selling a property and working out what price you can be able to achieve, although it's the final step almost in the process, really we've got to start with that at the beginning. We've got to start with what figure we're going to be able to achieve on the property when we're doing our due diligence. So when we come to the sales process, we already know what figure we want to be able to achieve because it's in our earlier calculations. Really what we're now doing is speaking to the agents and finding the right agent that might be listing that property, reaffirming some of those figures that we're thinking about. The market might have changed slightly. We're taking those things on board as well. And of course, things like the timing of the market is really important. For example, fairly recently, we had the stamp duty holiday and prices were going up very, very quickly. People were pushing to try and get things done before certain deadlines. And sometimes you find towards the end of the year, around December, the market slows down. People are not really thinking about moving. In the springtime, the market starts to become more buoyant. So there's sometimes seasonal things like that might happen that can affect what price you're going to set as the asking price for the property and how long you might be waiting to accept a suitable offer for that property. Generally speaking, once the property's been on the market, you put it on, you want to present it in its best possible state. You want to have an agent that really shows the property in the best possible light with great photography, with floor plans as well, and then great marketing to go with that as well. And that way you should really get an offer on that property fairly quickly. Certainly within a couple of weeks you should have interest. If you've gone 6 weeks and you haven't had very many viewings, or you've not had any offers on the property, then certainly there's something that's not right. It might be the price, often is the case, which is set at a figure that's too high, that's putting people off, and the people are not coming to actually look at the property. And once the property is finally sold, you can take the money and go shopping. Well, actually one of the things you need to do is make sure you're accurate in the calculations of those figures. One of the things that people sometimes forget about is how long you have to hold on to a property during the refurbishment process, during the sales process. The property is sitting empty, it's not generating any income, and it's costing you money. You've got holding costs to think about. For example, you might have finance payments that you're making, you've got council tax you've got to pay. So there are costs that you have for holding the property. Also, the renovation costs, in many times it's more than what you initially anticipated as well, or what you were thinking you were going to spend on it. There might be unforeseens doing the renovation work. There might be other ideas you've had as you've started working on it. You think, actually, if we do this, it's going to make the property even better, more desirable, more sellable, and more profitable. So your figures might change slightly. So before you set the final price to list that property on the market, make sure you take all these things in consideration. And of course, you want to be realistic about what's going on in the market so that you can actually get that property sold, take that profit and move on to the next project, because the time frame once you've finished it is beyond your control. Everything up to that point you can manage. Once you've got the keys, the renovation, getting it all done, you can control that. But once you list it on the market, now it's beyond your control. You're waiting around for agents. Once the sale's been agreed, you're waiting around for solicitors to get everything done so that you can actually complete and get that profit. This video has just been a quick overview of the flipping strategy, but if you want to learn more about it in a lot more detail and be able to help you find those deals, oversee those renovations and get some support on that, then make sure you reach out, because we're putting some support packages together in terms of helping you flipping properties. And if you've enjoyed this content and you'd like to learn more about the difference between flipping and renting and the advantages and disadvantages, then make sure you click on this video just over here. But just before you do that, don't forget to click on my face down here to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you on this video just next.